What's good, y'all? Good day. Hope you guys are doing well. So, welcome back to another episode. And today I'm with the team. Well, at least some of them. You guys can introduce yourselves. I am B Pasha. And yeah, the rest can introduce themselves.
Sup, guys? It's your boy Dominic, and welcome to a new episode. I think this is episode 7, in case our host forgot to mention the episode number. But yeah, we are here, right? And yeah, it's a good day. It's a good. I feel good.
Hola, hola, Majita. Fere Kamban. It's your girl, Casper. Yeah, like we do it always. Let's get in it.
Aways. So, the topic for today, just to be thorough with it or just to be direct with it, it states Ere. What do you wish people understood about suffering? Suffering is a very broad topic when we mention it, and sometimes when under suffering, there's specific things to think about or the specific things to rather focus your mindset on rather than focusing it as a whole. So, in this sense, when I'm talking about suffering, I'm talking about suffering that entails self, as in meaning battling with your thoughts, battling with you know, uh, your flesh, temptations, and when under that suffering, it is very important to notice a couple of things, or to just shift your perspective when it comes to that particular suffering. There's a quote that I picked up the other day as I think it was on Instagram or something. It was by Rumi. It states, "The wound is the place where the light enters you." Well, so basically, to explain it, it says that pain or suffering can be the beginning of wisdom or healing. To further explain, it says that suffering opens up, it creates cracks in the ego, in our assumptions, in our certainty, and through those cracks, truth and transformation can enter. As I was saying, when we talking suffering relating to itself or battling with your flesh, in that moment you tend to be introspective. You tend to think more about yourself. Yes, true. It's agonizing. It's mentally difficult, mentally training. But one thing that you need to remember or understand about suffering is that it's the beginning of wisdom or healing. That's where the shift comes in. Suffering, particularly as I said, when it comes to self. Right one. So Lohona, it talks about and how suffering has emerged the strongest of souls. I remember I was talking to Dominic the other day about suffering on how it's synonymous to a sword and how a sword is being forged. We know what, obviously it's ore, the iron. It's iron, you smelt it, you heat it, you bargain. Kind of what's that term you use to beat the iron? I forgot, but then that process over and over. If a sword were to be conscious, obviously it was gonna scream out, "Why me? Why am I going through this? Why am I going through whatever?" But it's unaware of what it's becoming. You understand? So I feel like in that sense, synonymous to us when we suffer, when we go through trials, or when we go through situations where it's tough, we are synonymous or no different to the sword. We don't know what we're becoming, but obviously we are being forged. And that's just one thing that I feel like a lot of people need to understand about suffering, or suffering when it comes to yourself, you know, because it helps you be more grounded, more present with what's happening around you. And that's just the piece of what I've learned about suffering. Maybe you guys can just expand on that.
Yeah, I think just to add on, personally, I would say, maybe. Hey man, it's such a deep topic. What made you? Yeah, Pasha. Hey, Jim. Skala lam tamunyado. Uh, yeah, bro, but like it's a very deep topic, and I would personally say suffering, it's not much always of a punishment. I wish people understood that suffering It's not like you're being punished for something, you know, and it's not a sign for not being strong. Like you're not able to handle the heat. You understand? It's not a form of a weakness. It's not a sign or when is weak, she's bias swag. So yeah, sometimes it could be painful, yeah, but I think it helps. Suffering helps to rejuvenate strength in a person. It teaches you how to face things and take them head on instead of doing what ntho e e rileng ke makgwa a le ba tshabileng ba America ba re bona ke difama. Yeah. Instead of doing that, you face the situation head on. And yeah, it shapes you, it gives you character.
Okay, for me personally, like there's something that BP said, right? But I forgot what it is. And yeah, man, I don't know. I wanted to add on to, what he said, but I don't know what it is. I forgot, and I'm sorry. But, like literally, like you mentioned on that quote, there's something that you said. Please read it again if you can, and then I'll tell you when to stop, and then I'll tell you this is the point that I wanted to add.
All right, so I should get okay. The quote is by Rumi. It says that the wound is the place where the light enters you. So to give a meaning or to explain that, it says that pain can or suffering can be what again, the beginning of wisdom or healing. And suffering opens up. It creates cracks, as I said, in the ego, in our assumptions, our
That's
yeah,
deep.
it
That's really
really
deep.
is.
Especially the part where it says um, the wound opens up space for healing. Like that's we think in a way you're thinking about it like how can I heal while I'm suffering? It's like it's a battle of the mind and the consciousness too. Subconscious mind. You get it's like the conscious versus the subconscious type of bit.
Exactly. Exactly. And Elohona, adding on to that, remember, it's all about the mentality. As cliche as it sounds, it's very cliche to say, it sounds to say, Hore, when you're under trial, nah, it's all about the mentality. Nah, not in that sense. But then I feel like it's in a sense of, as you're saying, understanding what this can, can do to you or for you. I want, because yeah. Yeah, go on.
Yeah, sometimes you gotta like just sit back instead of complaining, try and see Uguti, what can I learn from this specific child that I'm in?
Okay, I agree with what Casper said, Hori. Sitting back and asking yourself what you are learning from this, right? And that is important. You understand? And I think also trials because I also have my own fair share of trials, and I think also suffering, in terms of the flesh and temptation. And just for the listener to clear out, the flesh we are talking about. Let's just say if your spirit was in form, like your spirit is now, like it's something that we can see regarding that your flesh, like okay, let's just say skin. Let's make it simple. And I would like to say that on top of that, these trials, suffering shouldn't. Okay, let's start here. I wanna say this, and now I'm having deja vu flip. But what did I wanna say? I wanted to say suffering somehow is inclined with Barking. Suffering is inclined with being a bad person, you know. And what I mean by that, in terms of flesh, like I mean, let's look into the religious side of things. I mean, if I were to, what can we say? Let's say, look at okay. I don't want to use job as an example, but let's say, you know, let's take something easy, something that is like common among people. Let's talk about self pleasure, talking about like sexual immorality, for example, such as masturbation. Let's get into that. And I would like to say that there's a lot of people going through that, and there's a debate online that what is it good for you, is it bad for you. There's a team that's saying that is good for you, then there's a team that's saying it's not good for you. And then the team that said that is not good for you, they started this group of the retention of that activity, which is, I don't know, man, because I feel like everybody, if they were to sit back, as Casper said, and look at the situation, what if God low key was like, nah, Joe, let you go through this trial, because God knows for at the end what you can become. What if, like, he was like, Joe, not that God was playing with you, but let's just say the devil was like, boy, let's see, brah, God, if your pawn can actually become a knight. Can he become a rookie? If you guys play chess. And I think, man, as we are growing up as human beings, we go through our trials and errors, and at the end of the day, they are part of the survival we call life. It builds the character. And you know, as much as social media is good and all, for the fact that there's a community talking about it, but at the same time, man, why don't we just keep quiet and then go back to ourselves? I'm talking about the people who are so pompous, who are always like, yeah, Joe, since you guys can strike your John for like 3 days in one day, why don't you guys challenge yourself to not stroke for 3 weeks or something? That is wrong, man, because I think it needs a whole lot of self introspection. Same thing with this topic. I mean, this subject matter, such as masturbation, let's take it into something like anything. Anything. Everybody has problems. You can be an alcoholic, and if you sit back and realize it, or somebody in your life who cares about you, silently so comes to you without any offense, is like, yo, bro, I see you're struggling with alcohol. How about you cut back, or they should just say, I see you have a problem with alcohol, and then it's up to you as the individual whether you're gonna do something about it or not. Are you gonna call out for help, or are you gonna let this thing drain you? And then it's kind of sad, man. Like, Hori, I know I'm going a bit off topic, but it's kind of sad how one, like, let's say I'm an alcoholic, and then instead of somebody coming up to me and be like, "Exe braga or shabu," I wanted to say this not to control, but how, why, not why, but how are you using alcohol as a way to heal yourself? That is giving somebody the shoulder to cry on and be like, "Exe, so." When you ask, why are you drinking alcohol?
Would that be a question that you would raise mutating ale sober or ale intoxicated? Because I think it also depends. If you look at people's behavior, mina one is umuntu ophuzayo. When you drink and when you don't drink, well, I'm posy, but I live with people who drink. I smoke a lot. I'm a smoker. Yeah. But what I realize is that when you drink alcohol and when you're sober, you become two different people. So it's a matter of distinguishing which character is much more approachable.
Realistically speaking, I would say that the, well, sober minded person, or maybe when you guys are having the first drink, you know, just be like, say, what do you find amazing about this? And then as it goes on, man, like, it's only uskasukela mutu, but like, build that foundation of like, okay, I can see you having a problem with it. And then if that person decides, or no, man, maybe this guy might be right, or yeah, I'm actually using this as a cushion to lie on. That's when they will decide.
So, Simpio, I have a question. Um, what, in which aspect of suffering are you talking about?
Now I'm talking about like, oh yeah, sorry. No, I'm talking about that aspect. Going back to what I said, I'm going to that perspective of like ending that suffering. Like I said to you, what if not God put you in that situation, but what if the circumstances are making you a victim, a statistic for that specific subject of matter?
I get what you're saying, but then when we're talking about you talked about sexual immorality. I wouldn't say that's not God putting you in that situation. That's a situation you put yourself in. It's like alcohol. It's like alcohol, for
Let me
example.
let me correct you there. I don't think as human beings we put ourselves in situations. We don't have that power. We are put in situations according to a plan. But also it's not a matter of stay there permanently. It's a matter of figure it out. How are you gonna get out? And when you get out, the reason why you were inside is to literally experience how it is. It's like, take me for example, me smoking weed. Lately, I've been feeling like weed is, it's not kicking in as much. Like I can smoke 3 to 4 joints a day and not get high at all. It's a matter of now my subconscious, it has overcome the drug and it needs something deeper. So that kind of understanding for me, I would understand it for other people who are also smoking. Maybe let's say I overcome the smoking thingy, the smoking problem. You get, so once you overcome the problem, you become the source of, not, you become like jo ukhona mo advice motho, yeah, ukhona mo advice motho jo hape sale ka tsena le nna so ontshwara, and then ka izama jo ka zama tsotlhe ka fitlha ko kae ontshwara, and I ayanthusa, like it didn't help at all. So the thing that you're looking for, my guy, trust me, I being a monteo because I've been there and I've looked for it kasekre. In other words, I'm trying to say, ogena ka mahara situation who experience mudimu a o ntshe but also ya depend or wa dumela or a o ntshe na, because one thing I realized, mudimu ke mudimu wa free will. On tshwara o tloela o etse ntho e nyakang ke choice ya hao. So e batla ba tsela tsa hore o kentsha, but now you must be able to realize, or no, I've been in this shit for too long now. Now I gotta stop, and I gotta help other people to tap out of that subconscious.
That's what I wanted to ask you, Kesper. Was that how God gave us free will, right? To be able to decide and to be able to be bargaining who we are, you understand? And He has obviously the power and the authority to take you out. You understand? You're totally right on that fact. That's what I wanted to say. Gere, when I do tse dingwe rena ka borena re di tsentsha mathateng wa bona. For example, let's say for example you know hore area where you live in bushiu ba theila, they steal the emana, you know, and then wena o tswile lata ka bo ma 5 knowingly hore the area you live in is not good, and then ka bo ma 6 ho bua ha o tshwara ke po o ba o tshwara po, you're the one who put yourself in that situation because you didn't heed the signs on the warnings. That's what I was just trying to say in the beginning. And maybe my example might be bad. I just wanted to go along the lines of sometimes we put ourselves in situations ourselves that aids to the suffering.
I would like to say something regarding putting ourselves in that situation. Well, that okay, for me, my understanding, Kesper is kind of right. Like when you make it a mission to help somebody else regarding information, that's when now you yourself have a good motivation to get out of that situation. In your example, I mean, the way you put it, Ore, I mean, you are the one who got in the mud. You jumped in the mud and then now udigira kolobe sharp. But then like, I mean, dog, look at, I think the most practical example that I can use is Job. Job had everything, dog. Job had everything. And then all of a sudden Satan was like, nah, boy, hurry. Let's take everything away from him. No, like, I mean, like, dog, that's the only character that I know who has been stripped of their elements. Wantalwan. And Job did that. God like literally sabotaged Job's life. And then Job was like, nah, man, God has got me. That is the perspective of like, okay, not God put me in the situation, but the enemy put me in the situation. That's where it all came from. Satan was testing God's subject. And then God was like, okay, let's see where it goes. And then Job prospered. He was like, no, man, God doesn't want evil for me. So this is not God. This is just not the surrounding, but the circumstance. I am a victim of a circumstance. Hence, Kale, during on this episode, I said, Hore, there are some people who become victims of their circumstance, but they decide, Hore, I dog, this is not fit for me. Let me do something that is good for me to get myself out of that rut. And Yeah, that is something that's how for me suffering. I feel like not everybody grew up as an addict towards something. They were just put in that situation by inconvenience. You know, let's say in your neighborhood, nighttime, that's when people start mugging each other. Let's say I didn't know about the community properly, and then I come back from work, I'm walking, and then all of a sudden, papa, I'm a statistic of being robbed. And then I'm like, eh. And then the people around me are like, Remudi. So we told them. You see, now it's like a matter of like I'm being made a fool for my maybe not ignorance, but my lack of awareness. So that's what I wanna say.
I totally understand at that point, but then when you were talking about moto, when you come from home, usaiti, awiti, asked about how you put yourself in that situation, you didn't know the situation. And when we're talking about people who put themselves in situation, if we're talking Bible characters, not to be deep on that, but David put himself in sexual immorality by looking at Mwanyanol. So that's what I'm trying to say. That's what I'm trying to say, Hore. That's why I said certain, keyword being certain situations. We put ourselves in that. Alright. So leading back to Tabaya Safari, it's just a case here, Hore. It's all about mind shift. But then I have a question, like maybe that you guys can answer or that we can just talk about, particularly in our culture and society. How do you guys think our modern world teaches us to handle or avoid suffering?
Regarding how society and culture teaches us about, well, now I've found a fair share of lessons per se on my own by me seeking. Once you start looking, you will find the answer. And yeah, man, ask people around you, man, about these situations because there's some people who are uncomfortable talking about it. Regarding society, like now my homepage for social media per se, because that's the only way I interact with people today. I would say that that's where I find my lessons per se, and that's where I'm learning. But then, in terms of let's take an innocent person who doesn't know jack except what the parents or guardians tell him, it depends on that situation. In that situation, it really depends on the guardians and parents. Mara, let's say you didn't know anything and then you're out there. I mean we do have community centers. We do have addiction homes. We do have all these good things. It's just that they're in the shadows, man. Who wants to promote, like, literally, let's be for real. Who wants to promote an addiction home? I mean, I think Moja Love, ne? We are not sponsored by Moja Love or anything like that. But Moja Love is the only South African channel that I know that, like, they know their purpose and they try their ultimate best to solve the problem and they hope for a good solution. Now, when you look at Mzansi Magic, the one with the most programs and stuff, well, they do wanna solve the problem, but not like Moja Love solves a problem. Because the okay, Mzansi Magic is known for series and stuff like that. But then if you go to Moja Love, like, literally, they can set an hour of you watching somebody who's in a rut and then try to get him out of it. And they try. If the person goes back, they fetch him, they bring him back. That is a way of teaching other people, hore, this is a bad thing. That's all I can say, man. Let me leave it there.
I totally hear what you're saying. So basically, on the basis on Simpiwe, Casper, in a sense, or anybody who can answer this, is that what he's basically saying is that the reason why people often suffer in silence is because it's not televised or it's not promoted, or that's the reason why people choose to suffer in silence or often suffer in silence. Is it because of that? Is it because it's not what talked about, or that's a question that we could answer.
I mean, it comes down to the parents. Taba e le hore batswadi ba nahanang ka ngwana bona ira dilo tse so. Goes down. It always affects the parents the most, man. And I think, okay, I don't want to sound cliche, but religion or family like lessons, family moments per se are what lecture the child. What you tell your child in the house is what they're gonna do outside of the house. If I was now it's a thing that I started doing, but you as the father or mother don't tell the child the bad things about smoking. The child will see it as my dad smokes, my mom smokes, so I also have to smoke, because they're imitating. If your household, it doesn't lecture the children or what is wrong and right, it kind of adds more influence, and not motivation, but it influences the child who are like, nah, ereke zame so. Now let's take a child who was raised in a household whereby batswadi ba mmotsa gore o sa ira so, these are the effects. The child now is aware, so now we are decreasing the chances of influence. That's what I'm trying to say. Chances of that child being exposed to whatever substance it is, whatever entertainment it is. I mean, look at it, man. Yeah, I mean, I go now when I was a kid. I know this may sound funny or no, but then my mom personally didn't want me to watch the Boondocks. I didn't understand why, and then to only find out that, like, no, she didn't want me to watch it because there's cussing, there's like other like explicit scenes, and now I was a kid back then. But I never understood it. There was a time whereby, even I know this is a weird reference, but even South Park. South Park, I liked the animation. Like they were like, hey, what's South Park? And then once we started watching it, we were like, oh, why are they saying these things? Why are they saying this? Why are they showing this? And then Banotima TV, and then we all went to bed. So now you're teaching the child, no man, this is not good for you. It's either wa mokhala ngwana or ukhale ngwana. Like I said, people in the streets always say, what are the parents saying? But what are the parents thinking if about the child doing 1, 2, 3? I mean, any of us, if we were parents, we wouldn't want to know our child at the streets. They wouldn't want to know that.
So if it's a situation, vele, you are in, that you can't do anything about it, that Simpiwo was talking about, let's say you're in an abusive household, Bagustan every day, or every day they fighting. Sometimes some certain situations can rescue you out of the storm, but it just teaches you to breathe under the water. Kotlelelo, endurance. It's that type of thing, Lehona, that can help in terms of suffering. Sometimes suffering does not go away. And instead of fixating on the why, but you should fixate on the how. You can breathe under the water, which is endurance. So that's the type of mentality that I wish, or that we wish that people should know about suffering. Or sometimes, no fairy, but again, sunshine, rainbows, and end of the Disney movie, think suffering can go away. Sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes from thought to until it's always there, sometimes.
I like what you said, Hori. Quote unquote, suffering doesn't just remove itself permanently. It's funny how a temporal situation can be your permanent situation. It's kind of crazy. But how you deal with it, as you said, you have to ask how. It's important, man, and it's something valuable. I think, you taught me something today. Thank you very much, sir. And man, it depends, man, on your circumstances and you as an individual. Do you want this or you don't want it?
What I'm just gonna say is that what I've learned from suffering personally is that life is not sunshine and rainbows, right? And there is no way you can do things alone. There is no way you can try to or you can try to do everything alone, whatever. You cannot do, you can't do things alone. And for me, I've resorted to obviously give my problems to a higher power, which is God. And it helps me sometimes to endure certain situations that I know that can be removed, or that I urge or be removed. Sometimes they just don't get removed at the time I want to. You understand? And particularly, really, I wanted to leave a question to the listeners. One thing that I could leave to them maybe to think about is that what has suffering been trying to teach you? One. What has your suffering been trying to teach you? That's just something we could leave it to them so that it can actually help them think hore ba kgone ho bona, rather than yes, suffering is the enemy, but like a sword, maybe it's forging you to be something better. You know. So let me just leave it at that. Any points, anything to add on?
Nah, boy, on my end, I'm safe and secure, boy. There's nothing I can say. And yeah, man, thank you for the moral lesson. Moral, not moral. And yeah, man.
I appreciate you all, guys. I appreciate the team, even though they're not there, but they're there. You feel me?
Okay, alright. Thank you guys for tuning in to this episode, and we'll catch you guys on the next one. Hopefully, y'all become good, respect yourselves, and being 24 being better than before.